Mr. Frampton Nuttall, a man seeking rest and recuperation from a nervous condition. At the suggestion of his sister, he visits the countryside where he is introduced to Mrs. Sappleton, a local lady to whom he brings a letter of introduction. Upon arriving, however, it is Mrs. Sappleton's teenage niece, Vera, who welcomes him. Vera is an intelligent and imaginative girl, and she soon engages Mr. Nuttall in conversation. She begins to tell him an unsettling story about the large open window in the room. She explains that 3 years ago, Mrs. Sappleton's husband and her 2 brothers left for a hunting trip through that very window and never returned. They were caught in a terrible accident in the moors, lost to the wilderness. But Mrs. Sappleton, in her grief, believes they will one day come back. Every evening she leaves the window open, waiting for them to return as they did that fateful day. Mr. Nuttall, who is already on edge due to his nervous disposition, listens intently to this tragic tale, feeling sorry for Mrs. Sappleton's delusion. As he converses with Mrs. Sappleton herself, she seems entirely unaware of the morbid nature of Vera's story, instead chatting lightheartedly about her husband and brothers returning from hunting at any moment. Suddenly, Mr. Nuttall's attention is drawn to the open window. To his horror, he sees 3 figures walking across the lawn towards the house, exactly as Vera had described. Terrified, he believes he is witnessing ghosts, the long-lost husband and brothers, returning from the dead. Without a second thought, he bolts from the house, fleeing in sheer panic. As Mr. Nuttall disappears down the road, Vera, in her calm and mischievous manner, explains to her aunt that Mr. Nuttall was deathly afraid of dogs, which explains his dramatic exit upon seeing the returning hunters and their spaniel. Mrs. Sappleton, bewildered by his reaction, dismisses it, unaware of the fabricated story Vera had spun. The story concludes with Vera's talent for romance at short notice, highlighting her knack for creating elaborate and convincing tales, leaving readers amused and marveling at her playful yet manipulative imagination.